Suspension lifted. All healthcare workers in Singapore are now allowed to apply for overseas leave. A warning from the US: do not travel to Singapore due to the COVID-19 situation over here. And it's almost time for, yep, you guessed it, the annual Orchard Road Christmas light-up. Hello, you're watching The Big Story. I'm Haryanto Diman. Subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode. The Health Ministry has lifted the suspension on overseas leave application for all healthcare workers. Announcing the update in a circular today, MOH Holdings said, quote, with immediate effect, MOH will lift the suspension on overseas leave application for all healthcare workers. All overseas travel shall be subject to MOH's prevailing travel advisory as well as the National Travel Health Control measures found on the Immigration and Checkpoints Authority website. MOH Holdings added that healthcare professionals who wish to travel overseas should declare their vaccination status and indicate the country and city of their overseas trip when they apply for annual leave. The Straits Times has contacted MOH for comments. Meanwhile, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is urging Americans to avoid travel to Singapore. On Monday, the CDC raised its COVID-19 travel warning for Singapore from level 3 to the highest risk rating of level 4, which indicates a very high level of COVID-19. The advisory says because of the current situation in Singapore, even fully vaccinated travelers may be at risk for getting and spreading COVID-19 variants. Other countries that are already on the level 4 list include Malaysia, Thailand and Myanmar. The warning comes as Singapore opens new vaccinated travel lanes starting today for fully jabbed visitors from the US and 8 other countries. Down under, Australia's plans to lift travel borders and reopen to the world remain mired in confusion. New South Wales had announced that quarantine-free travel would begin November 1st and would welcome all overseas arrivals. But this was quickly overruled by Prime Minister Scott Morrison, who said the government would stick with plans to open borders to citizens and permanent residents first. Meanwhile, Victoria is planning to follow New South Wales, while other states are not planning to reopen at all. Here to unravel the confusion is our Australia correspondent, Jonathan Perlman. Welcome back to the show, John. John, where do things stand now? There seems to be a national plan to reopen Australia's international borders. But will the states stick to the plan or act on their own accord?
Yes, it's confusing because the states effectively control quarantine arrangements and the federal government controls visa arrangements and really decides who exactly can come into the country. So what's happened so far is that New South Wales, which includes Sydney, the largest city, has moved already to say that from November 1, people coming into New South Wales will no longer have to quarantine. So that's the first big step in the reopening for Australia. But at this point, it's not clear exactly who will be able to come in. It seems like this will really only apply to Australian residents. In terms of other states, Victoria has said it will follow soon. So eventually we'll see people being allowed back into Australia, into the two main cities in Australia, Sydney and Melbourne, without having to quarantine. That's a big change. But as for exactly when international tourists and students and visitors will be able to arrive, that's yet to be decided.
So where does that leave travellers from Singapore then looking to enter Australia?
I'd say the main thing for Singaporeans and everyone, both in and outside Australia, would be to keep an eye on the news from Australia for further developments and further announcements, because it's still very unclear. At this point, it looks like the federal government wants to open as quickly as possible for Singaporeans and other international visitors, but there's still no date confirmed. That's going to depend on meetings between the federal government and the states, who will all need to agree on when exactly visitors can come back from all countries into Australia, into all parts of Australia without quarantining. So there's still no date, but it looks like things are starting to happen, and at least there'll be no quarantining for Australian residents and other eligible returnees from November.
Thank you so much for your time, John. I've been speaking to the Straits Times' Australia correspondent, Jonathan Perlman. Now, you can read more on his story out later on straitstimes.com. Back home, more people have stepped forward to get their booster shots and first doses of the COVID-19 vaccine following the announcement of the vaccination differentiated measures. Revealing the numbers last night, the Health Ministry said that from October 9th to 15th, about 17,000 people received their first dose, while another 162,000 took their booster shots. Compared to the week before, from October 2nd to the 8th, about 11,000 people got their first dose, while about 135,000 took their booster jabs. The Straits Times had reported earlier that clinics and private healthcare institutions running vaccination centres also said they had seen a rise in people coming to get the vaccine, a majority of whom were looking to get their booster shots. The Health Ministry yesterday reported 6 Singaporeans aged 78 to 93 have died from COVID-19 complications. This takes Singapore's death toll to 239. 2,553 new cases were confirmed yesterday, 2,008 in the community, 544 from the dorms, and 1 imported. The local cases included 359 people above 60 years old. Meanwhile, 1,714 patients were in hospital, with 337 needing oxygen support and 67 in ICU. 40% of businesses are expecting losses for this year. That's according to a survey by the Singapore Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry. As COVID-19 continues to disrupt life here and around the globe, the survey also flagged 3 of the biggest concerns among businesses. They are rising costs, the availability of suitable manpower, and pandemic-related restrictions. 92% of more than 1,000 of the firms surveyed are small and medium-sized enterprises, mostly in the services sector. Joining me now to weigh in on this is the President of the Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, Kurt Wee. Welcome back to the show, Kurt. Kurt, looking at those concerns, are your members facing these challenges as well? Are many also expecting losses for this year?
I think you're looking at SMEs that are not only facing the current restrictions or manpower crunch or high business costs. You're looking at the most resilient batch of businesses that remain in operation after probably about 19-20 months of COVID pressure. And it is a very real thing for them to have been suffering this pain over the last 19-20 months. So it's not just symptomatically what is they're experiencing, or they're actually going to expect a loss. I think everybody generally expects a year that's not going to be great since they've been hit by the Delta variant and how potential recovery will be delayed. But typically you have to look slightly medium or slightly longer term, that these remaining businesses have actually been impacted heavily by about 20 months of COVID.
That said, Kurt, what measures or assistance are the surviving members, like you said, calling for to help them overcome many of the challenges?
I think there has been 2 key initiatives that have helped businesses quite directly. One is the job support scheme that has helped businesses with their wage. And then there has also been the rental rebate schemes that have helped frontline businesses. And last year during circuit breaker, it's also helped some of the B2B businesses with their rent costs as well. Having said that, these assistance schemes only cushion the losses, only help businesses in having less losses, giving a bit of cushion in the down period. You don't cover all of the loss. And businesses have indeed over the last 16, 18 months been pushing the digital pivot, push online payments, push the transactions and ordering systems online, especially the front line businesses. But these process of doing business, most of them also come with cost of doing business as well. So for example, when they shift from physical to online delivery of food, the online delivery platforms often takes a cut of 30% on the sales, which is a very, very heavy cost as a percentage of their sales as well. So, you're looking at businesses that have survived the first year of COVID, pushed through, they're standing there and they're hit by the Delta variant. And just as, we are expecting that things will be better, things turned out to be not so good. And currently we are thinking that probably things will remain difficult right up to first quarter next year, we think. So, job support schemes and rental rebate schemes remain very, very helpful. We hope that some of the schemes will be extended right up to March next year in order to help businesses regroup, reposition, and strengthen themselves for potential upswing.
Thank you so much for your insights and your time, Kurt. That was Kurt Wee, President of the Association of Small and Medium Enterprises. And it's all about keeping businesses going. Organisers for this year's Christmas light up in Orchard Road are hoping the event will attract lots of shoppers to the malls. And if you love flowers, then you'll love the oversized blooms decorated with thousands of fairy lights. The light up kicks off on Saturday, November the 13th and continues for 7 weeks till after the New Year. And here's a glimpse into the future. A driverless road sweeper hitting the streets in your neighborhood using 5G to stream back live pictures from the vehicle. It's among the first batch of 5G public sector trials being carried out in Sentosa for use cases in areas such as construction, manufacturing, healthcare and tourism. Streaming giant Netflix has raised its prices of subscription plans in Singapore. A basic plan will be raised by $1 to $12.98, and a standard plan will go from $15.98 to $17.48. A premium plan will see the largest increment of $2 to $21.98. Netflix last adjusted prices for Singapore users in January 2020, making this the service's second price increase in less than 2 years. Apple has stripped Intel chips from its computers and replaced with more powerful homegrown Mac processors in its new line of MacBook Pro laptops. The tech giant said the new chips called the M1 Pro and M1 Max for the redesigned MacBook Pro are 70% faster than its M1 predecessors. Apart from the new chips, Apple also added larger screens, MagSafe charging and better resolution to the two new MacBook Pros. And those are our top stories for today. For more news and videos, visit straitstimes.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below. Once again, I'm Harian Tediman. Stay safe and we'll see you tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.